Peace and love, family. Welcome again to another episode of NEPPC Podcast. I'm Brother Frank, and I'm with former political prisoner
Abdul Haq Islam.
Today's episode, we focus on the life and the times and the contribution to a people of Samora Machel. You know, he's a martyr, and he's who we recognize today in the month of Martyrs. For those who don't know, Samora Machel was a nurse. He was president of Mozambique. He was also a military genius. He was with Frelimo, which was the political party, and he was very clear on what they had to do. His sacrifice and commitment is directly connected to our political prisoners, because he expressed love at the highest level possible by putting his life on the front line. You know, his death was really, his assassination rather, came at a questionable plane crash. You know, investigated, and Brother Abdul Haq Islam will go into details a little bit more about that. And we have to look at when you are a threat to your oppressor, you know, they're going to do any and everything to do what they need to do, especially when you look at Africa and what it means to the world in terms of being a superpower or having power, period, on an international level. And Mozambique has resources that can be utilized by the colonial powers. So our brother Samora Machel, he understood that, and he understood what he needed to do. He just wasn't going to watch things happen. He's going to take a position. So, Abdul Haq Islam, it's on you, my brother.
Yeah, peace and love. Talking to the youth as we remember Samora Machel, the message is that this is the type of hero that we can look up to as an example, as a representative of the higher qualities that we treasure and respect in leadership, you know, and to reject those who willingly become Uncle Toms. You know, right now there is a big propaganda war, you know, between truth and falsehood, you know, and colonialism and imperialism are mentioned right now today in this time period, generated and inspired by the struggle of the people in Gaza and Palestine. You know, this is a perfect time to say, do not be like the Uncle Toms who know the history of colonialism and imperialism, who are aware of the death toll and the pain and the lashes on our back, who know that, but still side with the enemy, you know. Get down and side with those who fight for our liberation, who fight for our glory. You know, there's been a great struggle on the African continent, and Samora Machel was part of that, you know. So in our messaging, we need to talk about independence and being strong, being upright, being moral, being highly principled. That needs to be in our messaging, instead of messaging about selling dope, you know, to make someone dependent on those white supremacists that hate our guts, that put dope in the black community. As was said in the movie The Godfather, sell the dope to the N-words. They're animals, you know. So instead of collaborating and being an Uncle Tom, you understand, by giving messages to our people to make our people weak, we need to give these strong messages. So be like Samora Machel, you know, who lived and whose being was filled with the idea of standing up and fighting for your rights, independence, control of where you live. You know, do not be afraid of the enemy. You know, these type of principles, you know, that animate a people, you know, and we know the history of the enemy. We know how the enemy assassinates those who say that the wealth of a nation must benefit the nation of, just like they assassinated Patrice Lumumba. You know, CIA was down and dirty with that, you know. Samora Machel's death is very, very, they call it mysterious. A mysterious plane crash that South Africa at the time had not been liberated, and South Africa refused to do the investigation. You know, Mozambique and the USSR said that it was from a faulty beam that had led the plane into the hillside, you know. And at the time, the airport in South Africa was undergoing failure, power failure, you know. And South Africa, after being pressured, you understand, decided to half-heartedly come with an investigation, but by the time the investigation came, all the evidence had disappeared, you know. So we know, those of us who are familiar with the criminal justice system know that it's the guilty ones that make evidence disappear, you know. So that's very, very, interesting, you know, that it will go like that. And, you know, us who know the history of colonialism know how they operate, you know, how they have murdered our leadership, you know. Right now there's a big war between the truth and falsehood. Students in many colleges are walking out, you understand, because they're tired of being lied to. Many people and organizations now are coming out putting truth out here, you understand, to attack the falsehoods that are being propagated. So we're saying we're inviting people, the audience out there, you know, to do your own investigation, do your own fact finding, you know, and to join this this war that we are winning, in fact, right now, to get the truth out there.
Yes, and all of what you're saying embodies what Samora was about, what he stood for. And
right.
This
independence, African independence.
Yeah. So the month of the martyrs, you reflect on what martyr is. You reflect on who sacrificed for who. And this episode, when we think about Samora Machel and we think about his sacrifices, we ask ourselves, what does that really mean for us? What does somebody like Samora Machel mean for us? To me, he means that I have to do more. It means that I have to commit myself for my life, right? Of course, I have to pace myself, but I have to step up. I have to accept the responsibility. If I love my people, that love must be demonstrated in practice and action. This is a very important book that I advise people to get. It is the Task Ahead, Selected Speeches of Samora Machel. And a very important chapter is You Don't Ask a Slave if he wants to be free.
That's right, you free him.
Right. Right. And the slave, the so-called slave knows that, you know, I know what freedom is, and I know that's what I want. And it doesn't mean that I have to come to you and ask. I got to take it. It said the right to total and complete independence and territorial integrity is not negotiable. That line right there is very powerful because it's the same as that the Black Panther Party were fighting for. It's self-determination. It's like we can't talk about compromising our self-determination. The political prisoner understands that very clearly. They understand that they have to put it all on the line when it comes to a people moving forward, a people being self-determined. There are people who have ideas that are in opposition to those, and they're going to challenge you, and you have to fight them. You have to fight them by all means necessary. And that's why it's very important that we never forget our political prisoners, that we hold them in high regard, that if we respect their sacrifices, we will write them. We make sure that they're being discussed in schools, and we'll make sure that we continue to do what we need to do until they come home. You know, one of our political prisoners, Machel McGee, just made his transition. Yeah. He was incarcerated for most of his life. In the near future, we're going to have an episode where we focus on him. It's very important that
a valiant struggle.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So all of these is part of our culture of resistance, right? We have a long history of resistance of people as people of African descent, but it's just not here in the United States. It's also in Africa, Mother Africa. And that's why Samora Machel's life is so important, because his upbringing, he was brought on a farm, raised on a farm, He was a nurse. He understood what was going on. He took a position as a nurse that he recognized the injustice. Black nurses were not getting paid as the same as white nurses, and yet they were doing the same job. So he recognized that was an injustice. And from there, he decided to do more, because he knew that wasn't an isolated incident. It was because of the status quo, the arrangement of things, who was in power, who dictated what was going to happen to common people, everyday working class people. And Samora Machel decided that he was going to do as much as he could. He was the first president. He was leadership in the political party, Free Limo. And so he understood ideas had to be developed. And these ideas were going to govern their country. And their country had to be governed in a certain way where equality was the norm. And that's why he took his position, and he understood from his own experiences what it means to be treated unjustly. And I think that when you internalize the life of Samora Machel and you connect that to prisoners, then you understand the severity of the situation. That's why our platform is specifically towards political prisoners. I gave you some information about upcoming events, programs, demonstrations in the streets. We must have solidarity there, because that's what a political prisoner is about. It's about advocating for the advancement of a people. The information was provided. I'm going to provide it again so that we all can share that information with others. And we need to fight for reparations. We need to fight against unnecessary violence. We have some work to do, right? But we have to accept the role, our responsibility. Brother, when you talk about Samora Machel, and how would you educate a child or a youth in your family about Samora Machel? Because we have a responsibility to carry those ideas on to another generation.
I would educate the child and the youth on the same basis of how Samora Machel's life affects me. You understand? And that in freedom fighters, you know, those who have a love for that which is righteous, you know, there are certain principles and concepts and motivating factors that become enlivened and mobilized in the being. Aspects such as freedom, you know, the love of freedom, that's a theme that rings throughout the black community, the community, the nations of non-white people. Freedom is a theme, you understand, which becomes a mobilizer, you know, which gains muscles in our being, you know, that pushes us forward and makes us want to fight. You know, Samora Machel was engaged in a very, very cruel war, you understand, against the oppressor, you know, and the cruelness of that war magnetized and multiplied, you know, the importance, you know, of these principles. The principle of standing up, you know, becomes very, very pronounced during a very, very cruel war against a cruel oppressor, you know. And we know the colonizers, the imperialists, you know, have gone around the world committing the most cruel and unjust crimes, you understand, which mobilize us to stand up, to talk about territorial integrity, the riches of the land, the minerals, you understand, which is the basis of much of the theft and the wars, you know, to steal what belongs to us, you know, as the African people. Even though we're in the diaspora, we must identify with that which has been stolen from us and recognize the enemy as a thief and treat him like a thief. You understand? And to recognize our right and the rightness of our struggle to free the land. We hear the theme "free the land" often, you know. So these type of righteous human aspects, the enemy wants to reduce us to dogs that he leaves around on the chain, and will have you beg for a little piece of meat. You understand? That's what the enemy wants us to be subhuman. You understand? But we say stand up with our full humanity.
Absolutely.
That's my message to the young people.
Yes, just like Samora Machel did. He understood what was going on amongst his people, and he was deeply bothered by it and decided that he was going to take a position. He committed himself to a political organization, and he played his position. He understood that he had to do more than he did more, and he was in tune with what was going on not only in his country but neighboring countries, and he decided that he had to give support to South Africa to kill and abolish apartheid. So they was giving them military assistance with the abolition of apartheid, and I think that that lets us know what's going on today with Palestine. That we can't be on the sidelines. We gotta support the Palestinians and make sure that they are free and that they are going through a very rough time, and we can support them where we're at and doing what we need to do. And that's why, the month of Martyrs is a deep reflection, internalizing the sacrifices of those who came before you and put it all on the line, and they are synonymous with our political prisoners. When we look at the life of Samora Machel, and the brother transitioned, right, in his early 80s, and after being incarcerated for over 67 years. So that means the majority of his life he was in prison. And he understood what it was to be in prison. He said, this is slavery. He identified it very clearly. He took that position, and he never wavered from that position. And I think that when we talk about Rochelle McGee, when we talk about Samora Machel, when we talk about our current political prisoners, people like Mumia Abu-Jamal, Reverend Joy Powell, we talk about Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and we talk about Ed Poindexter. We're talking about political prisoners who need our attention, need our support, need our love, right? We know that life expectancy is but so many years, and we know when they do come home, they have only so many years to enjoy. So we have to struggle hard to bring them home, because we know that there's a serious injustice taking place, and we have to recruit others. We have to talk to others about what's going on when it comes to political prisoners, and we have to make that commitment to doing so. And I think that is very much needed. It's very much needed to do that because of what's going on currently, right? We must commit ourselves to those ideas of freeing our political prisoners. Right, brother? How would you connect or relate political prisoners to Samora Machel?
Well, I would say that the fight to free our political prisoners relates to Samora Machel in that both considerations are a fight for life, for a better life, and we must listen to the voices that are on our side as opposed to listening to the voice of the enemy. Right now, there's a great propaganda war. The enemy wants us to take sides against our own selves. Right now in Palestine, and what's been happening throughout the world is that the colonizers and the imperialists, are baby killers. Right now Israel is killing many, many babies in Palestine. and the president of the United States is a baby killer, you know, and the propaganda that is being pumped to our people like dope to make us dopey all in the brain, you understand, is the purpose is manufactured consent, to have us to consent to genocide, you know. That's right, you know, right now, the U.S. and Israel are engaged in genocide, and the term that was used on WBAI, I suggest that people turn on radio station WBAI to look it up online. In fact, you know, the term is the manufactured genocide. So they're trying to manufacture a campaign where we will agree with a plan to kill, you know, to kill ourselves and to kill the babies, you know, and you know, America is not going to be the one to resolve this. They're not going to solve this problem, you know, for decades. You know, we all are well aware of little black children saying, "I'm going to be the first black president of the United States." But when we had a black president, what happened? The first black president of the United States became the greatest murderer of Africans, you understand, of African leaders, you know, bombing African leaders, you know, murdered Muammar Gaddafi, you understand, who contributed much funds to African nations, you know. So this whole myth about America is going to solve our problem, no, we have to stand up and be independent and solve our own problem. And as leaders like Samora Machel, who example these traits, you understand, who are put into the real world, you understand, who act in the real world, you understand, and give us a history of how these aspects of our true humanity work, you understand, toward our independence, toward our freedom, toward liberating our lands and the wealth in those lands, you know, that, you know, wise people would identify with. You know, you got Africans say, I ain't no African, which means they know they don't identify with the wealth of their own land, but white supremacists do say they're Africans and they identify with stealing the wealth of our land. So this is what the life of people like Samora Machel means for us, you know. And right now, we have a great gift in the history of this brother, what he did, what he stood for, you know, and how he loved our people and the sacrifice he made, you know. And indeed, it is questionable how he made his transition, you know. And,
he was assassinated.
Yeah,
you know, he was assassinated. He was a martyr, and we have to salute him in ways where it's most respectful in our practice. But what are we a part of? Are we just learning our history, learning about people who we identify as a people's hero, as revolutionaries, and we just repeating or quoting what they said? Or are we taking it a step further and committing ourselves to doing some serious work? There's some serious work coming up. We'll keep you informed. You know, our contact is made available all the time, 347-679-3936. That's my direct cell number. You know, it belongs to the people because I'm here to organize people. Like I tell people, I'm not a debate organizer, and that's what this platform is. It's about organizing for political prisoners, not trying to debate with anybody to say whether they are political prisoners or not. You know, we know what the oppressor, we know what they have said about our political prisoners. They said that there is no political prisoners, that these people are criminals and terrorists. We say that they're freedom fighters, and there's nothing wrong with fighting for your freedom. Just like Samora Machel took a position, he talked to his oppressor, and he let it be known that they didn't have no situation with the Portuguese people themselves, because they was going through their own situation. It was those who were in power in Portugal that were doing the oppression, involved in that wholeheartedly, and with them that they had their issues, and they could not talk about negotiating their freedom or negotiating their rights to their land, to where they've been for a number of years, that that respect had to be that their land was going to belong to them. And when words don't work or dialogue doesn't work, then you have to take it a step further. And I think that, when we look at our political prisoners understand that, then they understand that now. You can try things one way for so long, and if it doesn't work that way, then you have to try something else, or you add on to what you've been trying with something else. So now it's being more enforced, right? You say that, okay, we're going to demonstrate, we're going to rally, and that doesn't work. Now we have to boycott. Now we demonstrate, boycott, plus this, then you do something else. You use your creativity, right? That's at the heart of a freedom fighter, their creativity. That's your most fierce weapon. Your ability to create, your ability to organize, your ability to examine all the conditions and ask yourself some serious questions about what's happening and what position you're going to take. And do you have the resources to carry that out? I think that Samora Machel did that very well. He was a military genius. Mm-hmm. He knew geographically what was happening, and if certain areas were being allowed to be utilized in a certain way, then that would not be beneficial to his country or the country of people of Africa, right? That particular part of Africa, talking about Mozambique. And he understood this, so he knew that he could not wait around on certain issues any longer, and he had to take a position. I think that when we talk about Samora Machel, we have to remind ourselves the importance of being educated, the importance of committing yourself to being in an organization, committing yourself to carrying out an idea until it's carried out to as far as it could. When you think about Samora Machel and you think about his commitment to education, right? How important would you tell people it is to have a political education?
Well, brother, you was reading my mind because I get ready to talk about that. As activists, one of our messages we get all the time is educate, agitate, organize. So it's very, very important that we become leaders in our own education and don't depend on the colonizer's education, because the colonizer is going to educate you to be like a dope thing for white supremacy, So we say educate, to teach the real history, to teach the real truth. Right now, there's a big war. It's a propaganda war between the truth and falsehood. And truth is coming with some overhand rights, some jabs and some left hooks, some body shots, some thunder kicks. You understand? So, teach this real, the real world. Teach about the real world, and the real world is educational. You use the word bothered a little while ago. Bothered is to agitate the people, so to tell the people about the atrocities and the subhuman, the cruelties, you understand, that have happened to our people through the centuries. Educate, agitate, and there's agitation in that education. And out of that comes the spirit to organize. You push in to organize some stuff. Various things that we need to organize. We need to organize schools, organize forces of resistance. Organize funds. Get people to come together. For a common purpose and to be moved and have that spirit of fight in them, through education and agitation, to not be dominated. We must be tired of being dominated. Someone taking your manhood and your womanhood. You got to be agitated about that. You understand? Being dominated, being disrespected, looked down on, to say that you less than somebody else. They've even said that you're not even a human being. These things, you understand, must push us and put the fight in us, make us want to rumble and to win. And right now, in this big propaganda war, the truth is winning over falsehood, because many people now are getting students are walking out the classroom. Today it was on the news all over the city. People are walking out the classroom because they're tired of being lied to in these classrooms. You understand? So, continue to fight and be aware, know that we are winning and we're going to win.
Yeah, so, there it is. Carry out the legacy of Samora Machel. Fight hard for your people. Love your people. And, face your pressure with bravery. And do not negotiate what is non-negotiable. So with that, we say don't let political prisoners die in prison. What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.